Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of From the Vaults of the Beaumier Center. My name is Daniel Truckee. I'm director of the Beaumier Upper Peninsula Heritage Center at Northern Michigan University. Today on From the Vaults, we return to the Glenn Seaborg collection at the Beaumier Center. Those of you who watched the first episode of this series will know a little bit about Glenn Seaborg, but if not, I'll give you a brief introduction. Glenn Seaborg was a Nobel Prize winning chemist who was born just 15 miles from here in Ishpeming, Michigan. He spent the first decade of his life in Ishpeming before moving to Los Angeles with his family in 1920. A stellar student, Seaborg went on to an illustrious career at the University of California, Berkeley, where he was one of the leading researchers in the discovery of plutonium. His research and work were instrumental in the development of the first atomic bomb and the development of nuclear power for peaceful reasons. In 1961, Seaborg was appointed the head of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission by President John F. Kennedy. One of his roles was to be a main advisor to the president on the development of nuclear power and weapons and testing. It was during Kennedy's administration that the first efforts to limit testing and the proliferation of nuclear weapons was discussed with the Soviet Union, and Seaborg played an important role in this process. In 1962, he was appointed by Kennedy to serve as the U.S.'s representative to the Atomic Energy Commission Conference in Europe, and this is the official certificate appointing Seaborg, signed by JFK and the Secretary of State, Dean Rusk. It was during this trip that Seaborg began discussing with other countries that were nuclear powers the possibility of supporting a test ban treaty, which would stop nuclear explosions on the Earth's surface, underground, underwater, and in the atmosphere. There was a growing concern about the impact of these tests on the environment and as a prelude to war. Where Seaborg was a great supporter of nuclear power for peaceful reasons, as a person partly responsible for the creation of the bombs that were dropped in Japan, he wanted to stop the proliferation of atomic weapons. He also considered himself an environmentalist and was concerned that the rampant testing would be damaging to the Earth's atmosphere and oceans. In May 1963, Seaborg led a 10-man delegation to the Soviet Union for a tour of nuclear facilities. Flying on Air Force One, they arrived in Moscow on May 19th after a record-breaking 8 hours and 39 minutes nonstop flight from Washington, D.C. They toured nuclear facilities, some that had never been shown before to Western scientists. And Seaborg later wrote, "The cordial treatment we received helped to affirm my belief that science can successfully serve as a common meeting ground and a common language between East and West." One of the highlights of the trip was when in Moscow he met with Soviet President Leonid Brezhnev, the soon-to-be successor to Premier Nikita Khrushchev. Seaborg wrote, "Brezhnev's manner was warm and friendly, and he seemed to display a good understanding of the science and technology when he spoke of the details of the work in various institutes. All in all, he made a favorable impression of a man who wanted to get along with the United States." Afterwards, Seaborg was told that he was the first non-communist American to meet Brezhnev. Another high point of his visit was he signed a memorandum on cooperation in the field of utilization of atomic energy for peaceful purposes. And here is an image of him signing that agreement with Adronnik Petrosants, the chairman of the Soviet Atomic Energy Commission. Now, during his visits to various nuclear facilities and laboratories, Seaborg was given gifts. And one was this globe of the moon that you see here, and on the bottom it has a plaque that reads, "Professor Seaborg, in memory of his visit to the USSR Academy of Sciences, 1963. Seaborg's visit to the Soviet Union laid the groundwork for one of the most important treaties of the Cold War, the Limited Test Ban Treaty, which was signed on August 5, 1963, by U.S. and Soviet officials and other officials from other countries. Seaborg was invited to be part of this historic signing, and you can see him on the far right of this photograph. This treaty banned nuclear explosion tests in the atmosphere, space, and underwater. Seaborg was scheduled to visit the Soviet Union again in 1968 under the administration of Lyndon Baines Johnson, but his visit was canceled due to the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. In 1971, Seaborg announced that he would resign as the chair of the Atomic Energy Commission after 10 years of service. But before he stepped down, President Nixon asked him to make one more official visit to the Soviet Union to visit peaceful nuclear energy facilities. Soviet officials had toured U.S. facilities earlier that year, and in August, Seaborg led a delegation to the Soviet Union. His group visited research centers, nuclear power stations, and various universities throughout the USSR. Many of the items here on display were given to Seaborg by fellow scientists and officials during his visit. And at the very end of this video, I'm going to be showing details of each of these items and with rough translations of what they actually say. One of the items in particular, though, is this ceramic coin that features the bust of Igor Kurchatov, a Soviet nuclear physicist who was widely known as the director of the Soviet atomic bomb project. He was the namesake of the Kurchatov Institute, one of the Soviet Union's leading research facilities, and which Seaborg visited during his visit in 1971. In 1971, Seaborg returned to teach at Berkeley, but during his 10 years at the Atomic Energy Commission, he played a crucial role in developing a stronger relationship with the U.S.'s atomic adversaries in order to stop the testing of atomic weapons and to move toward the process of non-proliferation. Though he was disappointed that testing and weapons development continued, it did begin a process that over the next 20 years would lead to serious arms control agreements at the end of the Cold War. And that's it for this week's edition of From the Vaults, and we hope you'll join us next week to look at some more really cool stuff.